employer, or alternatively, a co-employee deemed to be your employer. And let me explain that co-employee to be deemed to be your employer. You are working for a company. You are working for a company. You are reporting to your manager. Now, your employer is the company. You're working for the company, so your employer is the company. But you're reporting to your line manager, who is a co-employee. However, that co-employee is deemed to be your employer. Would you agree with me? Your manager, even though you're working for company A, your manager is deemed to be your employer. Even though he's a co-employee, he's deemed to be your employer because he can institute proceedings to dismiss you from the company. So that's all that it's saying. So based on what we said about COIDA, would you be able to claim from, let's accept you comply with all the requirements of Section 17. You complied with all the requirements of Section 17. Will you be able to claim from the RAF?
No.
Why not?
You must claim from COIDA because of Section 35. That makes provision for injuries and diseases.
Do we agree with the lady? Or do we disagree with her?
I agree.
I agree as well. Brilliant. Section 35 of COIDA, you lost your common law right to sue your employer. So if you have no common law right, there's also no claim against the RAF. So brilliant answer. In terms of Section 35, you may not sue your employer. You may only recover damages from COIDA. And we will look at Section 19 tomorrow or later this afternoon. There we go. You're absolutely correct. You may only recover damages from COIDA. So brilliant. You guys are actually taking note. I feel a bit better now. Let's look at the second example. You again being conveyed in or on a motor vehicle concern in the course and scope of your employment. The motor vehicle is driven by a co-employee who is not deemed to be your employer. So let's say you're delivering, you're working for a delivering company, you are signed up with a driver to go and deliver some items for your employer. It's during the course and scope of your employment. Your driver lost control over the motor vehicle and drove into the wall. There's no other motor vehicle involved. It happened under the old Act, so Section 18 is applicable. Question now here is, can you claim from the RAF?
No.
It's vicarious liability.
It's vicarious liability.
You can't claim from the.
It's the employer. The employer is liable because you did work on working hours for your employer and you use the employer's vehicle.
But you deemed to be an ordinary passenger in that regard. Because it's a co-employee, he's not deemed to be your employer. You can't claim from COIDA, you have to claim from the RAF.
Okay. So we have two opinions here. The one is you may not claim from the RAF. I'm putting words in your mouth now. I assume you're saying you may not claim from the RAF because in terms of Section 35, we are barred from claiming from our employer if we may never claim from our employer if we sustain injuries as a result of employer being negligent and causing that injury. Now, if you look at Section 35 of COIDA, Section 35 only removes the common law right to sue your employer. It does not remove your common law right to sue a co-employee. So in terms of Section 35 of COIDA, you retain your common law right to sue your co-employee. So if you retain your common law right to sue your co-employee, is there a claim in law?
Yes.
And if there's a claim in law...
Civil claims, vicarious liability.
Okay, we'll get there now. I'll get to vicarious liability now. If there's a claim in law, do we have a claim against the RAF if there's a claim in law?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, we do have a claim. If there's a claim in law, we have a claim against the RAF. So can this plaintiff claim from the RAF?
Yes.
Yes.
There's a case of ESCOM that deals with this. There's an ESCOM case exactly the same.
Correct, absolutely. Now, let's take it a step further. This lady mentioned vicarious. Yes.
Before you take it a step further, or if you're done, I really need you to explain the whole thing, starting from the second option or the second categories of person, where you said it conveyed in case of employee of the driver, of the owner. That one, which you're explaining now, because I am completely lost.
No, that's what I'm here for. Don't worry. Can I just finish this thought of mine? Then I'll get back to you. Is that fine?
Yes, thank you.
Perfect. Okay. Sorry, I'm reading now. It's bad network quality. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, can hear you.
We all agree that Section 35 of COIDA only bars us from suing our employer, but it does not stop us from suing a co-employee. Hence, there's a claim in law, hence there's a claim against the RAF. This is a category of passenger. This is not the ordinary passenger. There's a category of passenger dealing with COIDA in terms of Section 18. Hence, you will get a maximum of 25,000, which will include special and general damages, meaning you will get option 1. So let's work with the same scenario. Your total claim is 27,000 rand. What amount will you get from the RAF?
25,000.
Brilliant. You will get 25,000, which leaves us with a balance of 2,000. Where can you claim the balance of 2,000 rand from under the old Act?
From the wrongdoer.
The wrongdoer, who is your co-employee, so you can sue him for the 2,000 rand. But now they say this happened during the course and scope of your employment. Now, law of Delic, the lady correctly pointed out, there's a doctrine of vicarious liability. Everyone familiar with that doctrine of vicarious liability?
Yes.
The doctrine of vicarious liability states that if someone causes injury to you or damage to you during the course and scope of his employment, you may claim from that person as well as from that person's employer. Now, we now need to recover the 2,000 rand from the co-employee. You now receive instructions. Your client got the 25,000 rand from the RAF. You now receive instructions to proceed to recover the 2,000 rand from the co-employee. So we're all happy, we may proceed to claim the 2,000, but because it happened in the course and scope of the co-employee's duties, may we avail ourselves to the doctrine of vicarious liability? What do you guys think?
Yes.
Yes, you can.
Okay. Any other opinion? Perfect. Let's think this one through. This co-employee, if we avail ourselves to the doctrine of vicarious liability, who is his employer? Let's call his employer employer A. His employer is employer A. Who is your employer? If you are co-employees, who will be your employer?
Employer A.
Employer A.
Employer A. Now, apply section 35 of COIDA. If you apply the doctrine of vicarious liability, who will you be suing?
A.
Quida.
No. Just bear with me quickly. The balance of 2,000, we will sue the co-employee, and we said we will go by way of vicarious liability. If he can't pay, we will claim it from his employer. Am I right?
Yes.
But
Now,
COIDA,
if we
COIDA will bar you from suing the employer.
lovely. So can we rely on the doctrine of vicarious liability in this example?
No.
No.
No,
you
we
can't sue your employer.
Brilliant. So there you can see, let's look at what is the answer? You retain your common law right to sue your negligent co-employee, the driver, because your driver is not an employee in terms of COIDA. Because he cannot sue his employer, he can also not avail himself to the doctrine of vicarious liability. So the RAF will give a maximum of 25,000 for special and general. The balance he can recover from the common law wrongdoer.
Sorry, can
Now,
I ask you a question?
Yeah.
I'm a little bit confused. I know that you can apply vicarious liability in certain circumstances, but if you can't sue your employer, when can you use vicarious liability?
If, for example, let's work with the old act, you were a passenger in a motor vehicle. You're not working for the company, and this guy, it's happened. The accident happened during the course and scope of his employment. It's a delivery company, and you were a hitchhiker. You asked for a lift, and he said, "Fine, get into the van. I'm going to drop this parcel at point A or point B. I must pass point A where you're going, so I can give you a lift till there." So he's busy working, you get into his delivery van, and on the way there, you're involved in an accident. There's no other motor vehicles involved. So obviously, your claim is now limited to a maximum of 25,000. If there's a balance, let's say the RF, your claim is 30,000, the RF pays you 25,000. There's a balance of 5,000 Rand. Because the driver was to blame in terms of Section 18 of the old Act, you can now sue him for the balance in terms of Section 21. The 5,000 you can recover from him. And because it happened during the course and scope of his employment, he was busy working, you can also avail yourself to the doctrine of vicarious liability by also claiming that balance of 25,000 Rand from his employer. In that instance, Section 35 of COIDA will not come into play because his employer is not your employer.
Okay, I understand now. So basically, the third party can claim from the person who was employed by that. For example, I'm hitchhiking and I ask a guy from maybe Eskom to give me a lift, and he made an accident, so I can sue. Well, get the 25,000 from RAF, but sue the employer of Eskom. but if he made an accident, he can't sue his employer. Am I correct?
Absolutely correct. Absolutely
Thank you very
correct. But
much.
whether you will get money from ESCOM, that's another topic on its own. But you're absolutely correct.
But I just wanted to know the vicarious liability part, who can sue, but you made it clear now, thanks.
Perfect, perfect. I doubt whether you will get a cent from ESCOM. They're so in difficulties now, but that is not part of the work we're covering. I'm just joking, eh? So don't quote me on it.
Sorry.
Yes, there was another, sorry.
I just want to ask a question. This thing relating to a co-employee during the course of employment, is that a category on its own?
No, it's not. The category is COIDA.
Okay.
The category is when you an employee in terms of COIDA and the accident happened. In terms of Section 18, no other motor vehicle is involved. So the category states that you will get a maximum of 25,000 for special and general.
Okay, so if you conveyed by the employer himself, then you have to claim from COIDA. But if you conveyed by a co-employer, then that's where I'm a bit confused.
Yeah, no, continue your sentence. You're on the right track.
So if you a co-employer, then you'll have to claim from the RAF and cap it at 25,000 special and general, and then the rest you'll have to claim from the co-employee himself, not the employer.
Absolutely correct. Now, if we take it a step further, because it happened during your course and scope of employment, whenever you sustain an injury, you may also claim from COIDA. So what does it mean? You can claim from COIDA and you can claim from the RAF. So you can decide to claim from both COIDA and the RAF, or you can decide just to claim from COIDA or just from the RAF, or from both. Are you with me?
Yes.
Please explain that again.
Okay, I'll explain it to you again. Don't worry, don't stress. I'm here to explain it. We all understand that there's a claim against RAF here. We all understand that.
Yes.
Okay, now if we go back to the scenario, we said that it happened during your client's course and scope of employment. So he was busy working. So those who did labor law, you'd know that if you sustain an injury during the course and scope of your employment, COIDA comes in, where you can claim compensation from COIDA.
Yes, sir.
Now, in this example, where it was a co-employee who is not deemed to be his employer, we all agree there's a claim against the RAF. Yes or no? We all agree there's a claim, yes?
Yes.
And because it happened during the course and scope of his employment, there's also a claim against COIDA. So you may also claim against COIDA if you sustain injuries during course and scope of your employment. You may claim from COIDA as well. So you can proceed with a claim against both RAF and COIDA. Or you can decide, I'm only going against the RAF, or you can decide, I'm only going against COIDA. But in this example, you may proceed, you may elect to go against both RAF and COIDA. Everyone with me?
Yes.
Perfect. Now, what if you decide now, let's just put it up here again. Your claim is for, what did you say?
Sure.
Yes, continue, you can line.
I want to ask you something quickly. In terms of Section 35, with regards to the employee cannot sue the employer, does this refer to the old Act and the new Act, or only the old Act?
So both old and new. That Section 35 is not in terms of RAF. That's in terms of COIDA.
Sorry. Okay. Yeah, you-
You with me? I just want to get this here quickly, and that is your total.
Sorry, can I quickly ask something?
Yes, continue.
Section 18 of the old Act, why is it still relevant in the new Act?
How do you mean relevant in the new Act? It's not relevant.
Wasn't it taken out of the new Act?
Absolutely correct. This discussion is only in terms of the old Act that we're having now. It's not applicable to the new Act. But remember, this morning I said that the old Act is still alive. You will still find claims in terms of the old Act because some claims did not yet prescribed under the old Act. That's why we need to know the old Act.
So how long does it take to subscribe?
Prescribe,
Sorry.
can I, prescription is different. This morning, as I said, the prescription is different for claims against the RAF versus your ordinary civil claims. When we deal with prescription later this afternoon, I will explain it to you in detail. It's not a straight answer that I must give you. I must explain it to you step by step in order for you to understand why it is still alive. But I will definitely explain why we must still do the old Act.
Okay, thank you very much.
Are you happy with that? But for now, all I want you to know that the reason why we still need to know the old Act, because there are still cases that must carry the old Act, because prescription is different for claims against the RAF compared to your ordinary civil claims.
Okay, thank you.
Are you happy with that explanation for now? But I will definitely.
Yes, I'll wait. I'll wait for the prescription part.
Thank you so much.
So, can I just ask maybe if we can take like a breather and then come back, if everybody's okay with it, and then come back to
maybe
section
lunch break
18.
between 1 or 2.
Yes, it's now lunchtime, 1 o'clock. So let's break for lunch. And please, if you can just remind me where we ended, because I will forget. Old age is getting to me.
Is it possible for us to just maybe, I don't know if everyone is okay with it, to just run through section 18 when we come back with a fresh mind?
That's fine with me.
Yes. Yeah, I'm also okay with that. How long is our break? Sorry, I'm just asking.
I think it's an hour.
Yes, 1 hour.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, so we'll reconsume at 2 o'clock if that's fine.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, chat later. Cheers. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Okay,
Good
lovely. Are we all back?
Yes.
Can you still see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, because
Yes, yes, we can still see your screen. Same screen.
Okay. Let me just finish this part and I'll repeat everything regarding section 18 again. We ended off with our discussion on the second example where we mentioned that there's a claim against the RAF. He may not avail himself to the doctrine of vicarious liability. If he avails himself to the doctrine of vicarious liability, he will be suing his own employer. He may not do so in terms of Section 35 of COIDA. However, because it happened during course and scope of his employment, he may also claim from COIDA as well as the RAF. Now, we said, can you see if I highlight on the screen now?
Yes, we can.
Oh, I just thought I'm alone here. Thank you. So if the total claim is for 27,000, let's say client decided to lodge a claim with COIDA as well. COIDA paid an amount of 18,000. He received an amount of 18,000. Remember, that amount of 18,000, his total claim against the RAF is for 25,000. But this 18,000 must be deducted from the 25,000. So he will only receive 7,000 Rand from the RAF. Everyone clear on that?
Yes, sir.
So if you get an example where the client lodged a claim against COIDA and the RAF, remember whatever amount client receives from the RAF will not be deducted off the total. It won't be deducted off the total, but it will be deducted off the 25,000 that the client will get from the RAF. And in this example, client will get 7,000 from the RAF. Any questions on that? Now, if we take it a step further, as I mentioned, tomorrow we will look at the Apportionment of Damages Act and how is it applicable on the RAF. But I just want to touch on it now. Let's say your client was not wearing his seatbelt at the time of the accident, and the RAF decides that they will apportion 10% of his claim. Here, 18,000 SCOIDA he received, and the RAF decides they will apportion a further 10% of his claim. So we all agree that we will always start with you will get a 25,000 from the RAF. Then we must deduct the 18,000, which will give us a balance of, where's my equal sign, of 7,000. And then the RAF said they will apportion 10%. So 10% on 7,000 is 700 Rand, which means you will now only gets 6,300 from the RAF. Everyone still following?
Yes.
So in the first
Yes.
one, we first deducted the amount you received from COIDA, and then we apportioned the 10%. Let's do the calculation the other way around. That we all know why we're saying he's getting 25,000 Rand, and now we deduct the 10%. 10% of 25,000 Rand will give you 2,500, which will leave us with a balance of 22.5, minus the 7,000, the 18,000 Rand you received from COIDA, which now gives us a balance of 4,500. You see there's a difference in the amount at the end.
Sorry, I'm confused. I lost you, but I
Okay,
just
no
want to ask you a question. Are we going to get any of these calculations in the RAF part of the questions?
Possibly you can, because bear in mind, numeracy, if you go through, numeracy is an important part of the assessment as well. So this is where how they can put in numeracy into RAF.
Can you please go through it again if you don't mind?
Okay, no problem.
Thanks.
This one here that's highlighted now, we calculated by first deducting the amount received from COIDA, 25 minus the 18 received from COIDA, which gave us a balance of 7,000. And then remember, he was not wearing his seat belt. The RAF said they will apportion 10%. So 10% of that balance of 7,000 equates to 700 Rand. So we deduct that 10%, which leaves a balance of 6,300. So in this example here, we first deducted and then we apportion. The second example, we just swap the method around. What we do here is we first apportion and then we deduct it. So the 25,000, we all know how we got to the 25,000, and then we apportion the 10%. 10% of 25,000 gives us 2,500, which leaves us with a balance of 22,500. So there's our apportionment done. Now we must go to the deduction of COIDA. And there we deducted the amount received from COIDA. And at the end, we have a total of 4,500 that the RAF must pay client. So the question here is, which method must we follow? Must we follow this method here? This method we first deduct and then we apportion? Or must we follow this method where we first apportion and then we deduct? Do you understand the question?
No, sir. I'm still confused about how we even got to the 10%. Is that a general rule amount that's apportioned, or is it for the purposes of the example?
Purposes of the
go from like the beginning in explaining.
No problem.
If you can maybe do another example, maybe from scratch. I'm sorry, I'm also a bit lost here.
Okay. Let's delete this quickly. We all understand the total, the total claim, 27,000.
Yes, till there. I understand till there. From there, I understand.
Okay.
After that, I don't know.
Perfect. So client will get the maximum of 25,000 Rand. from the RAF.
Okay.
However, COIDA paid client 18,000. So we need to deduct the 18,000 Rand that he received from COIDA. Still following?
Mr. Jasim, where does the 18? I know
Yes.
COIDA gives them the 18,000 Rand, but is that just a decision they made with regards to looking at the scenario, and we just picked a number, or is there a reason they only gave them 18?
No, I'll just pick the number. So they will tell you what amount the client received from COIDA.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So now we deduct that 18,000. We left with the balance is now 7,000. Now in our example, the RAF said that because client was not wearing his seat belt, that contributed to the extent of client's injury, and they will give you the percentage. You don't need to go and calculate the percentage. They will give you the percentage in an exam. So in this example, the RAF decides to apportion 10%. Now we must apportion the 10% of this amount here, and the 10% in this example of 10% of 7,000 will be 700 Rand. Everyone still good?
Yes, sir.
And the amount that client will get from the RAF in this example is 6,300. What did we do here? We first deducted the amount, and then we applied apportionment. So this was our method for this calculation. We first deducted and then we apportioned. In the next one, again, client will get the maximum of 25,000. And now we will first apportion before we deduct. The 10% apportionment on 25,000 will give you 2,500. Now the balance is 22,500. And now we must apportion. Sorry, we must deduct. We already apportioned. We must now deduct the amount received from. Yeah.
I want to ask you one question. Did you take the amount 25,000 times by 10% or times by 10 divided by 100? Because that's where a lot of people get confused. If you can maybe just explain that, please.
I don't know what I did. I just know 10% of 25,000 is 2,500.
Okay.
Well, are you asking how do you do it on a calculator?
Yeah. Because sometimes you get different figures, and that can really just complicate things, and your answer will be incorrect.
So it's if you don't mind me helping, it's 25,000 divided by 100 times 10%, and that's going to give you 2,500. Then you just go 25 minus 2,500, and that's going to give you 22,000 minus 500.
Sorry, say again? I just want to write it down. Sorry, man.
25,000 divided by 100.
Yeah.
Times 10.
Times 10. Okay.
Times 10. Yeah, that will give you 10% of 25,000.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, cool.
But why? If you go on a calculator, it's much easier. You put in 25,000 times 10%. That's it.
Okay.
Let me just show you quickly. If I can just get my video on. Okay. If you look at the calculator, there's my 25,000. Can you see?
Yes.
Yes.
And then you times 10.
Okay.
And then you just press on percentage. And then you get your
Perfect.
2,500.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, so on the calculator, it's very easy. 25,000 times 10 and just put percentage, then you get the amount. Where am I now? Let me just... Okay, so now we've deducted our apportionment. Now we need to deduct the amount received from COIDA. And the balance here will now be 4,500. And the method we use here was to first apportion and then deduct. The correct method this one. You first apportion and then you deduct. So if you do get a calculation, remember the way I remember this is AD. AD paragraph 1, AD paragraph 2. You first apportion and then you deduct the amount received from COIDA. Everyone happy with that?
Can I ask something quickly?
Yeah.
I'm a bit confused as to why you deducting the COIDA. I thought it's a maximum of 25 and then anything after that COIDA will have to pay out.
Now, how it works in practice is the RAF will not finalize your claim until you receive your payment from COIDA. So whatever amount you receive from COIDA, in terms of the Act, must be deducted from the amount that is due by the RAF.
Okay.
There was another question?
No, so I was just going to ask you to please make another example with a different set of facts.
Okay, perfect. Let's say general damages is now 10,000. So here's our scenario. It's under the old Act. Section 18 is applicable. And COIDA as well. Client's general damages amounts to 10,000 and special damages amounts to 7,000. So the total amount is 17,000 Rand that the client can prove. Remember, the RAF will pay a maximum of 25,000, but you must still prove the maximum of 25,000. In this example, what amount is the RAF liable for?
17,000.
Lovely. We all agree with that.
Yes.
Client will only be entitled to claim 17,000 from the RAF. Remember, what did we say? Our method that we will apply is AD. First apportion and then deduct. Let's work with 20%. If you first apportion 20% On 17,000 Rand, it will be 3,400. Am I right? Anyone with a calculator?
Yes. 3,400 Rand, yes.
So 20% on 17 is 3,400, which leaves us with a balance of 13,600. And then you deduct the amount received from Koida. Client received 8,000 Rand from Koida. You deduct that 8,000 Rand received from Koida, and the RAF will only pay 5,600. Everyone happy with that?
Sorry, sir. I just wanted to know, in which instances do you apportion an amount? Or is it part of the scenario?
It's part of the scenario.
So will the scenario specifically stipulate that this amount needs to be apportioned?
No, they won't give you the amount. They will just say the RAF, you and the RAF decided on an apportionment of 20% or an apportionment of 15%, whatever the case may be. Okay. But they will give you the percentage.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Everyone happy with this? And remember, the method is AD. First apportion and then deduct. If there's
happy.
Lovely. Now
sorry,
before
can I ask a question?
Yeah, certainly.
How do you know? I know you gave an option A and you gave an option B, where the first one you first deduct and then apportion, and now in the second one you gave an example where you apportion and then deduct. How do you know which to do first? Scenario.
Correct. I gave you as an explanation. Initially, I gave you both methods, but the correct method is first apportion and then deduct. So you don't deduct first and then apportion. That is the wrong method.
So this is the correct method, the apportion first.
Correct.
Not the other one.
No, the other one is the incorrect method.
Okay, no, then I don't want to write it down.
Are you happy?
I'm getting there.
Okay, no problem. We've got till tomorrow if you don't understand. I enjoy if you guys engage me. This is much better than me just speaking and you guys don't understand.
So, sorry, in terms of tomorrow, you said that you'd bring us past question papers. Could you please, part of the question papers that you bring, could it please specifically cover this section so that we can see how it would look in an exam?
No problem.
Yes, please. Please.
Remember what I said this morning. When I think it's a fear that we as lawyers have for calculation. Again, just 70% courage. If you have that courage, if you get that fear away, it's extremely easy, I promise you. Just try and get past that fear. Don't fear accounting, don't fear calculations, then all is good. So that is just some advice for you guys. That is what my math teacher told me in, what was it? That wasn't grade 5, it was standard 5. And
I think a lot of us are already freaking out about paper 2 and paper 4 with the calculations.
Now that is where you make the biggest mistake. Whatever you do in life, try and be confident. Tell yourself you will do it. But the brain is so powerful. If you tell yourself it's difficult, it will be difficult. So if you tell yourself it's easy, I promise you, things will be easy for you. So don't stress, guys.
So maybe you said this before. Sorry, I have a question about categories. You said that if the taxi driver or the taxi doesn't have the correct papers, then the person falls under ordinary passenger.
Correct.
I quickly have a question. If the car that they were driving in was unlicensed, then what happens? Maybe you've said this before, but yeah.
Are you referring to a taxi or?
No. A car, like moving away from the taxi now. If the person is in a car that is not licensed, what happens then?
Okay, perfect. If you recall this morning, we discussed the day case, the SCA judgment, where the SCA said that for third-party cases, which includes RAF, the focus should never be on the registration of the motor vehicle. If we look at Section 17 requirements dealing with a motor vehicle, the motor vehicle need not be a licensed motor vehicle.
Okay, thank you, sir.
You're more than welcome. Now, before we get to the next category, I think let us just go back and recap everything what we said under Section 18, because I know before the break there was a request that we lost some candidates with our explanation. Section 18, it's only applicable to the old Act. So again, it's important in the exam, look at the date of the accident. If the accident happened on or before 31st of July 2008, the old Act is applicable. And if the old Act is applicable, now you can look at whether Section 18 will be applicable, because Section 18 is only applicable to the old Act.
Sorry, just a question. Does that mean that in Section 18, or that the list of categories of passengers doesn't apply in general, or does it still apply?
Under the new Act or the old Act?
Under the new Act.
Under the new Act, there's no categories of passengers. Because there's no Section 18 under the new Act. So that's why I said, whenever you start, whether you're consulting with a client or whether it's in the exam, immediately the first question is the date of the accident. Because the date of the accident will tell you whether the old Act is applicable or whether the new Act is applicable. If it's the Section 18 is only applicable under the old Act. There's no Section 18 under the new Act. So if you get a question in the exam dealing with a taxi passenger, you will not mention anything that we're discussing here. Why? There's no categories of passengers under the new Act. All claims under the new Act are treated the same. As I said this morning, under the new Act, if you're a passenger or whether you're a pedestrian or whether you're a driver, in order to claim general damages, you must sustain a serious bodily injury. So all claims are treated the same. Under the new Act, if you want to claim loss of income or loss of support, under the new Act, you will only get a maximum of 160,000 Rand per annum. So the same is applicable to passenger claims under the new Act. There's no Section 18, so please make a note that you will not even mention categories of passengers. You will not even mention 25,000. The 25,000 and categories of passengers, you will only possibly mention under the old Act. Everyone clear on that?
Yes.
Thank you. So now we say that Section 18 is only applicable to passenger claims under the old Act. But remember, it's not applicable to all passengers. It's only applicable to passengers where the passenger cannot prove negligence on the part of another driver, of any other driver. For example, if you are a passenger in a motor vehicle under the old Act and your driver lost control of the motor vehicle and drives into a wall, there's no other driver involved, so you won't be able to prove negligence on the part of another driver. In that instance, your claim under the old Act will fall under the ambit of Section 18. But if you a passenger under the old Act and your driver failed to stop at a four-way stop street, as well as the driver of motor vehicle B also failed to stop at that four-way stop street. So both are equally to blame. Both failed to stop. In that instance, you can prove some negligence on the part of another driver. In that instance, your claim will not fall under the ambit of Section 18. And we said all that you must do is try and get at least only 1% negligence on the part of the other driver. So if both drivers fail to stop, they equally to blame. They both equally, both 50% to blame. So it's easy to get that 1% blame on the part of the other driver. And if you can prove that 1%, your claim will not fall under the ambit of Section 18, meaning your claim will not be limited to a maximum of 25,000. Everyone happy with that?
Yes, sir.
Lovely. And then I think this is straightforward. What is ordinary meaning? Everyone happy with that? What is meant by ordinary meaning of conveyed, and then the intention of the parties, the case that we discussed?
Yes.
Or do you want me to go through it again?
Can I please ask you to go through intention just one more time, please?
No problem. Okay, let's start in by saying that in order to be a passenger, you must be conveyed. So in order to be conveyed, you must be carried for the purposes of transportation. And if you're being carried, you're either in or on the motor vehicle. However, the old Act, in terms of Section 18, extends the meaning of convey to include you entering or mounting the motor vehicle, or you are alighting or getting out of the motor vehicle. Remember the example I made of the taxi where you're halfway in, halfway out? In that case, the extended meaning, you deem to be conveyed, so you deem to be a passenger. But in some instances, it's not that clear. If we use the ordinary meaning, or if we use the extended meaning, it may not always be clear whether you're being conveyed as a passenger. And if it's not clear, the focus must be on the intention of the parties. Okay. And in intention of the parties, meaning what was the intention of the driver and what was the intention of the person in question. Here we looked at the case of Mkiza. Mkiza was driving a tanker. He was driving a tanker which broke down. So he got stuck, disabled tanker. He called a tow truck to tow him and his truck to the destination. Whilst being towed, Mr. Mkiza decided that he will not sit in the tow truck or on the tow truck, but he will remain in his disabled or broken down tanker that was being towed by the tow truck. The tow truck driver then lost control over the tow truck. No other motor vehicles involved. He lost control and an accident occurred. Mr. Mkiza suffered bodily injuries. So Mr. Mkiza complied with Section 17. So the RAF said, Mr. Mkiza, we're happy you have a claim against the RAF. However, your claim, because it happened before 2008, Section 18 is applicable to your claim. In that you were a passenger in this tow truck, and you cannot prove negligence on the part of any other driver. Hence, we, the RAF, will only give you a maximum of 25,000. Mr. Mkiza said, no, look at the facts. I was not in this tow truck. I was not in, nor was I on this tow truck. I stayed in my disabled tanker. So I was in this tanker, in this motor vehicle. So negligence, I can prove negligence on the part of another driver, which was the driver of the tow truck. And the court said, hold on, the best way is to look at intention. What was the intention of the driver of the tow truck? The intention of this driver of the tow truck was to get Mr. McKeezer to his destination. And Mr. McKeezer's intention was that the only way for him to get to his destination was for this tow truck driver to get him and his tanker, him and his disabled tanker to their destination. Hence, the intention of the parties was clear that Mr. McKeezer, even though he was not physically present in the tow truck, it was still his intention to be conveyed by the driver of the tow truck. That's a bit clearer now?
Yes, thank you very much.
Lovely, but my tea is now ice cold. That's my problem. Where am I jumping to now? And then we say, as from the start, or as a starting point, if your claim falls within the ambit of Section 18, your claim is automatically limited to a maximum of 25,000 against the RAF. So all claims in terms of Section 18 automatically limited to a maximum of 25,000. So we now know if it's in terms of Section 18 of the old Act, you will not get more than 25,000 Rand from the RAF. You can get less if you cannot prove the maximum, but you will definitely not get more than 25,000 Rand from the RAF. And then we asked the question. We gave the two options. The first option is that this you always start with 25,000, that this 25,000 includes both general and special damages. That's option 1. Option 2, this 25,000 is only in respect of special damages, and 0 Rand you will get from the RAF for general damages. That's option 2. Now, how do we decide whether option A or option 1 is applicable or whether option 2 is applicable? In order to make that determination, Section 18 lists categories of passengers. The default, I started with the default category. The default category is an ordinary passenger. This is the default one. An ordinary passenger is if you cannot fit your client into any one of the categories, then by default, your client will be treated as an ordinary passenger. And an ordinary passenger will get option 2. Only an ordinary passenger will get option 2, which is a maximum of 25,000 for special damages only. Which means if we go to the calculation, I think it's still here that we did earlier on. If client's special damages is 7,000 Rand, client will only get, if option 2 is applicable, will only get the 7,000 Rand from the RAF. All remaining categories, all other categories will get option 1, meaning all other categories that's remaining will get the maximum of 25,000 Rand. So the maximum of 25,000 they will get, and that 25,000 will be option 1 for general and special damages. Everyone still with us? If not, please tell me.
Yeah, Matthew.
I'm lost. The calculations is confusing me every time. I get it and then I get confused again.
No problem. So it's the calculations.
You said the maximum of 25,000, but isn't 25,000 the maximum already, the limit, the limited amount?
Correct. Correct. So if I say the maximum, meaning the RF will not pay more than 25,000.
Yeah, I hear you.
So where am I losing you?
No, it's fine. I just got a bit confused with that.
Okay, but please.
It confuses me, especially that other one with the apportionment and the deductions.
Don't stress about that. You can always, after class or afterwards, I'll give you my contact details, so you can always contact me and I'll gladly explain it to you. That's not a problem.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And that is open to all CAs. If you have any issues relating to, let me be clear, because I made this mistake where I said students can contact me at varsity if they have queries, and then they came with personal queries. I'm only available for queries relating to RAF matters. So please, I'm not available for personal issues. Everyone clear on that?
Yes, thanks.
Okay. So what are the categories? There's a category dealing with conveyed for reward, and the requirement for this category is that the taxi must be registered with the Road Transportation Board in order to fit your client into this category. If the taxi is not registered with the Road Transportation Board, then your client will be treated as an ordinary passenger, the default category. I'm just identifying the important categories that you need to know. And then we looked at the COIDA category, where COIDA is applicable. Are there any questions regarding COIDA, or do you want me to repeat it while we're all happy with it? Yeah?
Can you please repeat the COIDA category, because that's where I got lost before we went on lunch?
No problem, no problem. Oh, you're not the one that went with your mommy to go buy tights earlier. I'm joking.
No, I'm not the tight lady.
No, I'm joking. Don't take me serious. What was I saying? Section 35 of COIDA. Okay, COIDA. Don't stress about it. They will tell you whether COIDA is applicable or not. So you need not go and study COIDA. They will tell you whether COIDA is applicable. So if COIDA is applicable, you must remember Section 35 of COIDA. Section 35 of COIDA removes the common law right from an employee or his or her dependents from suing his or her employer. So what does it mean? An employee may never sue his or her employer if that employee sustained injuries during the course and scope of employment. So you may never, even if your employer was at fault, you may not sue your employer. You can only claim from COIDA. And there's case law to confirm that as well. Constitutional Court judgment that confirmed that Section 35 is in line with the Constitution. So we must just accept you may never sue your employer. So bear that in mind, and then we jumped to two scenarios. The first example that we gave, we said that the client was conveyed in or on a motor vehicle, and this motor vehicle was driven by the employer, by his employer, or alternatively a co-employee deemed to be his employer. And we said A co-employee deemed to be his employer is, for in the case of a person working for a company. So company A is your employer, but your manager is your co-employee who is deemed to be your employer. Are you with me, especially the lady that we lost here?
Yes, I'm following you.
Lovely. Now let's look at this scenario and apply section 35 of COIDA. Who was the driver at the time? The employer. Am I right? So the RAF will step into the shoes of the driver. If we remove the RAF, your client must sue his employer. Can your client sue his employer in terms of section 35 of COIDA?
No.
No, he cannot. So here we go. If no claim in terms of common law, remember section 35 removes the common law claim to sue the employer. So if there's no claim in terms of common law, there's also no claim against the road accident fund. So in this example, your client may not claim from the RAF. However, because it happened during the course and scope of his employment, COIDA is applicable. He may claim from COIDA. You understand that?
Yes, thank you.
Lovely. Now, if we look at the second example. Second example, we use here again, same scenario, course and scope of employment. However, the driver here was not the employer, but the driver was a co-employee who is not deemed to be his employer. And here we made an example of a transport company. Your client was during the course and scope of employment, he was with his co-employee and they were on their way to make a delivery, but his co-employee is not his manager, was not his manager. They are on the same salary scale, so they just co-employees. And the driver lost control over the motor vehicle, no other motor vehicles involved. So section 18 is applicable. And because it happened in the course and scope of employment, COIDA is also applicable. So the first question is, in this example, can we claim from the RAF? Is there a claim in terms of common law? So if we let's remove the RAF steps into the shoes of the driver. If we remove the RAF, we're left with the driver who is the co-employee. In terms of common law, can you sue a co-employee? Or was that right removed in terms of section 35 of COIDA?
No, it wasn't removed.
So you have that right. So yes, if there's a right, there's a claim against the road accident fund. So there you tick, your client may claim from the RAF. The maximum amount client can claim is a maximum of 25,000. And if his claim is more than 25,000, the balance he can claim from the common law wrongdoer from the driver. So if the total claim was 27,000 Rand, the RAF will pay him 25,000. There's still a balance of 2,000. He can now sue his co-employer for the balance of 2,000 Rand. However, there's something called the doctrine of vicarious liability in terms of law of dealing, that in terms of vicarious liability, if a person caused damage or injury to yourself or your property during the course and scope of that person's employment, you may also claim from that person's employer. That lady earlier on mentioned the Eskom case, and she's absolutely correct. It was that case of Eskom that you may claim from the employer. But in this example, who is your co-employee's employer?
My employer, which
your employer as
Section
well.
35 applies.
There we go. So you
yeah.
you may not use vicarious liability in this example. You may not use vicarious liability because of Section 35 of COIDA. Are you with us now?
Yes.
Lovely. And then we continue to say, here's a possibility that there may be two claims, one against RAF and one against COIDA. Now, client can decide whether to claim from both or whether just to claim from COIDA or whether to claim from the RAF. But if client decides to claim from both COIDA and RAF, you must remember whatever amount you receive from COIDA must be deducted from the amount that you're entitled to claim from the RAF. So he's entitled to claim 25,000 from the RAF. Whatever amount, the RAF will not finalize the claim until such time client receives the money from COIDA. And then we took it a step further. We added in apportionment, where we mentioned that the RAF decides to apportion your client's claim because he was not wearing a seat belt. If there's an apportionment and money is received from COIDA, what is the method? AD. Remember we said AD, the method? We will first apportion the amount, and then we will deduct the amount from COIDA. Happy, ma'am?
Yes, thank you very much.
Yeah? May I please ask a question?
Certainly.
So what happens in the instance where the money that you receive in terms of COIDA is in excess of the maximum of 25,000 that the RAF would give you?
Good question. What do you what do you think? What would be the case?
I think RAF would not pay out.
Absolutely correct. Because bear in mind, client is only entitled to the maximum of 25,000. So if COIDA paid out 30,000, there's no liability on the part of RAF then.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. You see how easy it is. You answer your own question. So I'm glad you guys are understanding the work at least.
But yes, I ask a question. So
certainly.
if the amount that's paid out by RAF is less than 25, and the amount paid out by COIDA doesn't add up to the amount of 25,000, so you're only being paid out, let's say 20,000 from COIDA and RAF put together, and your claim actually exceeds that, will you then be able to claim the balance from the common law wrongdoer?
Absolutely correct. There will always be a balance. Or not always. The example we made, COIDA paid. Okay, let me maybe explain it this way. COIDA will only compensate you for special damages. You don't get pain and suffering from COIDA. So the amount that you get from COIDA will always be a lesser amount.
Okay, thank you.
So, but you're absolutely correct. If your total claim is more than the 25,000, you can recover the balance from the common law wrongdoer. Now, to confuse you more, we're looking at Section 18 of the old Act. And Section 18 deals with passenger claims where no causal negligence can be attributed to any other driver. However, one can get away with not receiving this cap of 25,000 Rand. There are two categories dealing with that, where you can get away with it. one category. However, there are 2 requirements that you must comply with. Even though your client was in a motor vehicle and no other motor vehicle involved, under the old Act, your client's claim may not be limited to 25,000. So that is what we will look at now. When will that happen? It will only happen if your client was conveyed whilst rendering military service or undergoing military training. And the requirement, or the 2 requirements here are the motor vehicle in which your client was a passenger was not owned by the Defence Force. And number 2, that at the time of the accident, he was undergoing military training or rendering military service. So if you can comply with both those 2 requirements, the limit, the cap of 25,000 Rand will not be applicable to your client's claim. Do you understand that?
Yes.
No.
That yes, and that silence, I'll repeat, don't worry. We all know Section 18 now. We all understand Section 18. That all claims in terms of Section 18 will be limited to a maximum of 25,000. We all understand that part. We all understand the part of the categories of passengers to determine whether that 25,000 is for special and general, or whether that 25,000 is only in respect of special and no general damages. However, this is the however part. However, even if your client was in a motor vehicle and no causal negligence can be attributed to any other driver, your client may receive his full claim on condition your client can comply with these 2 requirements. Bear in mind, this is in extreme cases because it's a rare case where someone is undergoing military training at the time or rendering military service and is conveyed by a privately owned motor vehicle, which is not owned by the Defence Force. For example, let me give you an example. South Africa is currently engaging war with Namibia. Your client comes to you and say that he was stationed in a division at whatever, Walvis Bay, and all the defense vehicles were destroyed. All vehicles were destroyed, and the only way for him to get back to the base in Swakopmund, for example, was to hitchhike. And this old lady came along, and this old lady offered him a lift. And she lost control over a motor vehicle. This all happened under the old Act. She lost control over a motor vehicle and the car rolled. He sustained injuries. Would he be able to claim from the RAF?
Yes.
Yes.
Why do you say yes?
Because it's not a defense, a motor vehicle owned by the Defence Force, and at the time he was rendering military service.
But what about the fact that he was in the Republic of South Africa?
Brilliant, brilliant. That's why I put in that there. This is how they ask these questions. So you should not only focus on Section 18, but you must always remember the overriding factor will always be section 17. So what these examiners may do, they may give you this spot here, and immediately your brain tells you, wow, yeah, it's an exception, full claim. But that one issue that they're actually looking for is that it happened outside the Republic of South Africa. Everyone with me on that?
Yes.
Yes.
And this is how I want you guys to approach this exam as well. You need to look for these type of things. I don't know. My mom used to, before I went to go write exams, I used to say, read your question. Read your question. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that statements of the elderly people. Read before you write. So here, exactly the same. Apply that principle. The overriding factor will always be section 17 requirements. But I'm happy that you guys are now, you know section 18. Any questions regarding section 18? The last category, or another category, not the last one, another category that I just want to touch on.
Excuse me.
Yes.
I have a question, but my microphone was off. I have a question
problem.
regarding the wording military training. Training in the sense, the other day I took my younger sister to the army base somewhere here in Cape Town to go for the army training. In that scenario, she wasn't employed by the military services as of yet, but she went for military training. So if we were on the N1 and I made an accident due to my own fault myself, would this exception apply in that scenario?
No. You will not even mention it because you now said your sister went last week and we are in 2020.
Oh, okay. If it was in 2008 last week.
There we go. So you see the importance of the date of the accident.
Yes.
This is only applicable to the old act. It's never applicable to the new act because there's no section 18 under the new act. You happy with that?
Yes, but if the scenario explained that happened in terms of the old act in 2008, would her going to military training be one of the exceptions, even though she's not employed by the military services as of yet or at that date?
No, because bear in mind you must be employed. I suppose she went for to see a fitness train to see whether she qualifies.
Yes.
Yeah, so this refers to the actual training after you've been accepted into service.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome. Another category that I just want to mention is a lift club. Now, for a lift club, we are not looking at, for this category, you are not looking at the number of people in a lift club, but the focus should be on the motor vehicle. I'll explain it to you now. The focus should be on the motor vehicle. If you look at motor vehicles are registered to convey a certain number of people, including the driver. So some motor vehicles, some cars, you may have the driver, it's registered to have the driver and 4 passengers. Some minibuses are registered to take the driver and 9 passengers. That 16-seater combis are registered to take 15 passengers and a driver, which makes up the 16. Now, for the purposes of a lift club, in order for you to fit a person into this category, the motor vehicle, the motor car, should be registered to convey not more than 10 people, including the driver. For example, if you and your two friends decide to form a lift club and you are making use of your daddy's 16-seater combi, even though you are only 3 people in this lift club, but if you making use of your dad's 16-seater combi, your passengers, if an accident happened under the old act, will not be able to fit themselves into this category of a lift club. Why? Because the motor vehicle that you're using is registered to convey more than 10 people, including the driver. Another example would be if you use a car that's registered to convey 5 people, including the driver, and you are 10 people in that motor vehicle, you would be able to fit the passengers in these categories while we're not looking at the number of people, but we're looking at the motor vehicle, how many people are allowed to be in that motor vehicle. So if you cannot fit your client in this category, client will go into the default category of ordinary passenger. Everyone happy with that?
Yes.
Yes.
Lovely. Now, let's take it a step further. That's section 18, but we're not finished yet. Some of us made use of a taxi, whether it's that small taxis or whether it is a minibus taxis. I think at least once in our life, we made use of a taxi. And as I mentioned, a taxi, in order to fit your client into the category of a taxi passenger, the taxi must be registered with the Road Transportation Board. If the taxi is not registered with the Road Transportation Board, your client will go into the default category of ordinary passenger. Did any one of you, when you made use of that taxi, did you inquire whether the taxi was registered with the Road Transportation Board or not?
No.
No.
I think all of us had no idea about this requirement in terms of the RAF Act. So the Section 18 is now placing a burden upon the innocent passenger. Bear in mind, the passenger is innocent. The passenger did not cause the accident. It was the driver that lost control of the motor vehicle. But the passenger is now being punished because the taxi was not registered with the Road Transportation Board. But this duty exists on the passenger to inquire. Do you think it is fair or unfair?
It's unfair.
It's unfair to place a burden on an innocent person, like an innocent taxi passenger. And this was came up in a court case here in the Western Cape, which is referred to as the Mvumvu case. Mvumvu versus Minister of Transport and the Road Accident Fund. What happened was that Mvumvu challenged this provision, Section 18, on constitutional grounds. In that, Mvumvu argued that these categories are unconstitutional because all passengers must be treated as innocent passengers because the driver was negligent and not the passenger. So the Western Cape High Court, or the challenge was not against the entire Section 18, but the challenge was brought against certain of these categories of passengers. And it was brought against 3 of the categories. The one was conveyed for reward, That category was challenged. The second category that that Muvumbu challenged against the Constitution was that of an ordinary passenger. And the third category was the one where COIDA is applicable. So those three categories Muvumbu challenged against the Constitution. And this all took place in 2011. The Western Cape High Court then ruled that those three categories are unconstitutional and not in line with the Constitution. Because it was a constitutional issue, it eventually went to the Constitutional Court, and the Constitutional Court confirmed the judgment of the Western Cape High Court. So it confirmed the Muvumbu judgment of the Western Cape High Court. So in February, I think it was 17 February 2011, when the judgment came out, Parliament received 18 months to address Section 18 of the old Act. However, the Constitutional Court ruled those three categories unconstitutional, and they provided guidelines as to how we should proceed in the interim with those three categories of passengers, which is the conveyed for reward, ordinary passenger, and where COIDA is applicable. So the Constitutional Court said that in the interim, all claims which is not yet finalized until such time Parliament comes up with legislation, all claims under those three categories will be treated as if the accident happened under the new Act. I'll repeat myself. The Constitutional Court said that all claims under those three categories, the categories I'm referring to is, what did I say now? Passenger for reward, ordinary passenger, and where COIDA is applicable, will be treated as if the accident happened under the new Act. What does it mean? It means that in that interim period, if the claim was not yet finalized, your claim will, in that interim period, your claim will not be limited to a maximum of 25,000 if it's in terms of one of those three categories. However, in order to get your full general damages, you must prove a serious injury, because the claim will be treated as if the accident happened under the new Act. And your loss of income, you will get a maximum of 160,000 for loss of income, and you will get your full medical and hospital expenses. Everyone still following? Any questions so far? Any questions?
We're happy, thanks.
No questions.
Are you happy so far? Okay, because the silence, it's getting to me. I don't think I can ever be incarcerated. I will go mad if I don't get people responding to me or hearing voices. Anyway, what was I saying now? That is, the Constitution said that in the interim, until Parliament pass legislation, this is how those three categories will be treated. And Parliament received 18 months from date of judgment, which was on 17 February 2011. 18 months, but we all know Parliament is extremely busy. They could not make it for that 18 months. They eventually got an extension to come up with legislation. But eventually, Parliament then came up with legislation, which is now commonly referred to as the Muvumbu Act, or the correct citation is the RAF Transitional Provision Act. The RAF Transitional Provision Act. And in terms of this act, This act now basically gives a client the choice to either have the cap of 25,000 or to opt that the provisions of the new act will be applicable. I'll explain it now. The Mvumvu Act, or more commonly referred to as the Road Accident Fund Transitional Act, Provisional Act, gives client the choice, the option to decide whether or not to have the cap of 25,000 Rand applicable or whether to opt for the provisions of the new act. There is a difference, and I will try and explain the difference to you by way of an example. Let's say client's claim is for general damages, 10,000 Rand. That is general damages. For special damages, client's claim is 5,000. The total claim is 15,000. What are the two options? Option one, client opt for.
The screen is very blur. The screen is very blur.
Yeah, mine is too.
Blur.
The screen is blur. We can't see.
I wonder why.
I think it's probably just because of the internet connection. It'll come straight again eventually, but we'll just have to deal with it for now.
It's been like that for a while, actually. But yesterday we also had a problem, and then the lecturer, she fixed it.
Is it? Let me just see quickly. But how do I do this though? Is it still so?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. I think it's just internet connection.
But then we're all experiencing it at the same time.
Maybe it's your internet connection.
Why is yours?
Mine.
Is yours
No. I mean the lecturer's internet connection.
It shows that the internet connection is stable on my side. That's strange.
I don't know, when you zoomed in earlier, then it was clear. Maybe you should try zooming in or zooming out. That could work.
And now?
That is a bit better.
Okay. Okay, tomorrow I will try and use a different connection and see whether it will be better. What did I say? Okay, this is option one. Client can opt for 25,000 Rand cap. So that's option one in terms of the Mvumvu Act. And option two is...
Excuse me, can you repeat option one, please? Okay.
Option one is client can elect that 25,000. Is there an echo now? Can you hear me?
Someone's mic is on. That's why it's echoing.
Okay, it's a heavy echo on my side. But option one is that client can decide that he or she will opt for the cap of 25,000 Rand, meaning that the client will not get more than 25,000. Okay, let me change this. Let me change this to make it a bit more complicated. So the total claim is for 27,000. Or the second option is client can decide that provisions of the new act will be applicable. That is what Google is saying. Those are the two options for the client. So you must now advise your client whether to go with option A. Option A is basically what the old act is saying, that you will only get a maximum of 25,000, or option 2 is that the provisions of the new act will be applicable. Now, if you look at the general damages, let's start with the general damages. It's a minimum amount of 10,000. So that's a clear indication that this is not a serious injury. Someone sweeping.
Candace Duplessis.
It's Candace's mic is on, and yeah.
My bad, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Candace. It's good that you're sweeping. What was I saying now? Oh, there's 10,000 Rand. If you look at this 10,000 Rand for general damages, from the amount, you will see that this is not a serious injury. A serious injury for general damages, you will get in more than 100,000 you will get from the RAF. So this 10,000 Rand tells us it's not a serious injury. So if client opts for the provisions of the new act, and it's not a serious injury, client will not receive general damages. Would you all agree with me?
Yes, me with you.
Yes.
Can you agree with me? If option 2 is applicable, client will only get the special damages. So client will only get the 17,000 Rand.
Yes.
If option 1 is applicable, which is the client will get the maximum of 25,000. Remember, there's no ordinary Mvumvu Constitutional Court declared ordinary passenger unconstitutional. So ordinary passenger is now unconstitutional. All passengers under Section 18 will get a maximum of 25,000, both special and general. So if client opt for option 1, client's total claim is 27,000. So client will get the maximum of 25,000. If you must advise client which option he or she must take, which one will it be? Option 1, which is the old act provision, or option 2, which is the new act provision?
Option 1.
Lovely. I'm so glad you said 1 and not 2. Absolutely correct. Option 1, client will get more compared to option 2. Everyone happy with that, or are we confused now because of the numbers?
We're happy.
Okay. I think we must call it a day. Till what time must we go until 4:30 or 5:30?
3:30.
It's 3:30.
Lectures.
No. I can't go on.
Excuse me.
I think we have enough information for one day. Let's leave some for tomorrow and let's try and internalize what we said today. But please, before we go, let's just recap what we did today. All we did was we said 1st of August 2008, is an extremely important date because that is when the new Act came into operation. That is what you must know. You must know Section 2.1 because that is important. If you must draft the description of the defendant, which is the RAF, you must mention it in the description. We then looked at Section 21 of the old Act, as well as the new Act, where we said the RAF will substitute the common law wrongdoer, meaning the RAF will step into the shoes of the common law wrongdoer. We then looked at all of Section 17 requirements in detail. That would include your bodily injury, what is driving, what is a motor vehicle, difference between cause by or arising. There must be negligence or other unlawful act, and it must happen within the Republic of South Africa. We looked at that, and then we also had a discussion on the major differences between the old and the new Act pertaining to general damages and special damages, and we mentioned that there's no difference between funeral expenses in terms of the old and the new Act. We also mentioned another difference is in terms of secondary victims, and the only difference is that for secondary victims under the old Act, you will claim against the RAF, and under the new Act, your claim will be against the common law wrongdoer. And then we started our discussion in terms of Section 18, where we mentioned Section 18 only applicable to the old Act. It is never applicable to the new Act. So we will not even mention a word of Section 18 under the new Act. It's only applicable to the old Act. We looked at what is meant by being conveyed. We looked at intention, and we looked at the categories of passengers. And ultimately, we came to Mvumvu judgment. And Mvumvu judgment declared 3 of those categories, which is conveyed for reward, ordinary passenger, and COIDA unconstitutional. And Parliament then passed legislation, which is commonly referred to as the Mvumvu Act or the RAF Transitional Provisional Act, and this act gives 2 options to those 3 categories of passengers under Section 18. And the 3 categories, as I mentioned, ordinary, conveyed for reward, and where COIDA is applicable, those categories of passengers can now decide whether to still opt for the cap of 25,000 or whether to opt that the provisions of the new Act will be applicable. So if you consult with a client, make sure that you do your this calculation to determine which option will be better for client in terms of the Mvumvu Act, whether it's a 25,000 Rand option or whether it's provisions of the new Act. And we also mentioned that in terms of Section 18, if there's an apportionment and an apportionment and an amount received from COIDA, you must always first apportion before you deduct the amount received from COIDA. And that, in a nutshell, is what we covered today. Everyone happy? I want you guys to... Yeah?
Everything is fine. I don't understand this last part about this new Act and old Act with option 1 and option 2.
Okay.
I'm lost here.
No problem. Remember what we said, the difference between the old and the new Act. In terms of the new Act, in order to claim general damages, you must prove a serious injury. Are you listening? In terms of the new Act, we said in terms of the new Act, your loss of income or loss of support will be capped at 160,000 per annum. This only came into operation on the 1st of August 2008. But this that we're discussing now is Section 18 of the old Act, and Section 18 is covering accidents which happened up until 31st of July 2008, which was before the new Act. In terms of Section 18 of the old Act, this was the option. This was the only option available to a client in terms of Section 18. The only option available to clients in terms of Section 18 before Muvumbu was that your claim is limited to a maximum of 25,000. But post-Muvumbu judgment, the Muvumbu Act now added a second option in light of the Constitutional Court judgment. And the second option is that the client can decide to go for the cap of 25,000 or to have the claim treated under the provisions of the new Act. Maybe I must give you another example. If, for example, client's general damages is 100,000, client's general damages is 100,000 and special damages is 17,000. So client can prove an amount of 170,000 from the RDF. This is option 1, that is Section 18 of the old Act. Client will get a maximum of 25,000. So if client receives this maximum of 25,000, client is out of pocket here. However, client can, after Muvumbu judgment, client can now decide not to go for this option, but rather have the provisions of the new Act apply to his claim. Now, if we look at 100,000 for general damages, it's a serious injury. If it's a serious injury under the new Act, client will get general damages. Special damages, if you look at it, 17,000, that includes your medical and hospital expenses as well as your loss of income or loss of support, which is far less than the cap of 160,000 in terms of the new Act. So if client applies the provisions of the new Act, client will walk away with 117,000 Rand. So in this example, what advice would you give your client? To opt for the old Act provisions or to opt for the new Act provisions?
The new Act.
The new Act. Does it make sense?
Yes.
Are you still confused, ma'am?
Yes, I am still confused. Sorry, man. The part of the new Act, I understand the 25,000, but I don't understand with regards to Are you saying that if it's in the if it's after the 1st of August with regards to the new Act, they can still claim the 25,000, but then I don't know. I'm really lost. Sorry.
This accident happened on 15 January 2007. This is the date of accident. Am I right?
Old Act. Okay.
Old Act. And this is where no other motor vehicle was involved, only the motor vehicle in which your client was a passenger. So Section 18 is applicable. We are now in 2020, which is after the Muvumbu judgment and after the Muvumbu Act. So today, we're facing the scenario. We agree that the old Act is applicable here. This is the old Act. So if the old Act is applicable, your client's claim will be treated in terms of Section 18. And if it's treated in terms of Section 18, your client will get a maximum of 25,000 Rand from the RAF.
Yeah, I understand that.
Lovely. Just keep that in the back of your mind quickly. Now, let's say this accident now happened in 2009. Which act is applicable?
The new act.
The new act is applicable. So if the new act is applicable, in order for client to get general damages, what must client prove?
Serious injury.
There we go, serious injury. So let's accept client can prove the serious injury here. Client will then get the general damages. Under the new act, the loss of income is limited to a maximum of 160,000. In our example, it is 17,000, which is far below the 160,000. So client will get that 17,000 from the RAF. So in this example, under the new act, client will get a total claim of 117,000 from the RAF. Now, if we go back to what we said, that option was not available under the old act. That option was not available. The only option available under the old act was this one here. And this is the date of the accident, 15 January. But Mvumvu Act is now telling us that even though when the accident happened, it was the old act and the new act was not in operation, Mvumvu Act added this in. The client can now opt for the provisions of the new act applicable. Is everyone confused or is it only one candidate?
I understand.
Okay. Now, those, is there anyone else that's still confused?
No, thank you. We're happy.
No, we're good.
Okay.
No.
Now, again, I'll give you guys my cell number. You can call me after the lectures. Tomorrow we have another class, so from Thursday onwards you can give me a call. I will gladly explain to you. Let me give you my cell number now before I forget. 076 230 9953.
Sorry, repeat it again, please.
076 230 9953.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I say thank you to you guys. We will then reconvene tomorrow again at 8:30.
I actually emailed you before, but I never received a response. This was, I think, last year. I can't remember. I emailed you.
If you send me a WhatsApp, it's much easier because I receive a number of emails per day from students at UWC as well. So it's difficult sometimes. It just slaps the cracks.
Okay. Thank you very much, eh?
You're welcome, everyone. See you tomorrow. Rest well for tomorrow morning. Cheers.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
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 Hi guys, did you get the link for the recordings? It was uploaded.
Yes, I received the link today. I got the email.
But it's not working. The link is not working.
I haven't yet tried to use it actually. I'm going to quickly try now and see how far I get with it.
A few of us tried the link, it's not working.
Okay, let me quickly do it before I
I emailed Prudence. I emailed Prudence, but she's not responding.
All right. Okay, I'm just attempting just to see if it's going to work. I'm working on my phone, so I'm not 100%, but
okay.
Let me just quickly attempt to open it.
I don't see it working on my side.
Okay, here it is. Let me just open. Okay, it